back to the Neil Haley Show here on the Caregiver Dave Celebrity segment. Excited to welcome the program Caregiver Dave Nassani.
Hey,
Dave, how are you? And
I'm
man,
awesome.
it's July. I wanted to leave. It's been a love-hate July. Computer crashes. I got hacked. I got challenges beyond belief, but also had a great month. It's the weirdest thing in the world to talk about a month. It taught lessons. It's one of those, but I wanted to go. I'm ready for August. I'm ready for normalcy, hopefully. We'll hope, Dave. But Dave, our guest today is going to talk about, and it's great that this topic, especially with Olympics. Have you been watching the Olympics, Dave?
Yes. Yes, I have.
I have not. I haven't at all. But this is the first year ever. I think sporting events, it's hard for me to watch sports since COVID. But go ahead and introduce our guest.
Dichi is an 18-year-old teenage multicultural musician inspired by boxing to pursue his dream and lending his talents to raise awareness for the need for funding for local USA boxing clubs nationwide. Welcome to the show, Dichi.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate you giving me this platform to talk about it.
No problem.
So Dichi, you were from the beginning, you wanted to be a musician, right? Growing up, especially now at this point in time, right? That as an artist, that's a very important thing to you, isn't it?
Definitely. It was when I was a kid, I always did music. It wasn't my like, I enjoyed it. It wasn't my dream. It wasn't the goal. But when I was in high school, around sophomore year, I thought I didn't want to go to college because school is tough for me. I was a good but I didn't enjoy it. So I felt I wanted to not go to college. And music was one of those things that was able to open up that door because there was something that I'd always done that I enjoyed enough to the point where I could pursue as a career. And that was a career where I didn't need to go to college.
Good, Dave.
And you found that you were gifted.
I guess.
Where did your love of boxing come from?
So I first started tuning into fighting when I was about 4 years ago now, 2017. I started tuning into UFC during the Ronda Rousey and Conor McGregor era. And that kind of got me interested into martial arts and fighting, whether that's boxing or jiu-jitsu. And I was severely out of shape in freshman year. I was like on the verge of obesity.
Wow.
Kind of exercise turned that around, and over COVID, all the gyms were closed. It was tough to do any workout besides working out at your house. Sure. So in November, I started working out again. And at the gym that I'm at, I met this guy, Julio, who's like a boxing instructor. And I took one of his classes and I just fell in love. Because I'd always been watching fighting, but I'd never participated in actual training.
Sure.
But after that first class for boxing, I just fell in love with the sport. And I just felt I wanted to do everything I can to support everyone that boxes because I know how tough it is. And I know the discipline that is involved in boxing now after I've participated.
Wow.
So it means a lot to me, especially last weekend, I went to Atlanta and I went to a gym for the charity event that we're doing. And then it really hit a special place in my heart. At first I didn't realize how much it meant to me until we did the first charity event.
Wow. Exactly. We'll talk about that in a second. I want to bring up boxing. Dave, never told you this. I did a fixed boxing match in a tough, where I was supposed to fight somebody for the championship. And it was it was a regular boxing match, but the promoter knew it was fixed. So basically, talk about fixing boxing. We were talking about that before DC. I'm a former pro wrestler. I had to fight someone boxing where we didn't pull punches, 440 pounds. He was considered one of the toughest men in West Virginia. So I would go out there and we'd fight. And he says, you're pulling the punches, hit me harder. I'm like, oh my goodness. And then I had to take the dive at the end of the fight. But what it was interesting.
You could have been a contender.
I could have been a contender, exactly. So I never put that in my resume, former boxer, but hey, you know what? Whatever. But he was, hitting punches. And then finally, when I had to be knocked out, I basically took the dive. But it was like, you can say, oh, he knocked out this 7-footer boxer, but what the sport does and brings is it's something that not everyone does, Dichi. That's the big thing, I think, that brings these larger than life characters. And we talk about boxing, professional wrestling, MMA. It's something that you just don't see the average person do. And I think that excites people. And also it's something that really gives them purpose, right?
Definitely. And boxing is a sport where the amount of discipline that you need, there's been studies shown that participating in sports can lower crime rates, can lower your chance of delinquency, like they call it delinquency rates. So being like participating in out of school activities such as boxing has a real positive impact. So by being able to do this charity and donate to these places, it'll help the communities around, because there's 1,700 boxing facilities. There used to be around 2,000, but 300 had to close during COVID.
Wow.
And these 1,700 boxing facilities have such a positive impact in their surrounding communities. And that's just the effect that boxing has on people. Like David Goggins once said, he said, be an uncommon man. And that's why so many people are starting to box, because if you can box, I feel like that already puts you as an uncommon man. That's already something that you have that's like personal to you. It's not, no one else can do what you do. Everyone boxes differently. If you like know what I mean.
Yeah, and it gives you confidence too, that no bully's gonna pick it on you or whatever. You can protect your girlfriend.
So I'm surprised, Dave, you never boxed. Never did any boxing. And how about workout? Did you ever do a boxing workout?
I'd never done a boxing workout. I played lacrosse. In my life, I played lacrosse, football, soccer, and I also did weightlifting in high school. But I never stepped in a ring.
And so
Is that something you want to do one day?
It really would depend on
your parents.
What it would be for. I mean, my parents would probably let me, maybe. But,
they let you do the music route, so they at least gave you.
Yeah.
All right, so they have not had this discussion yet. Okay.
Yeah, but mainly it would probably be what it would be depending on what it's for, how like.
Or if you take a dive or whatever.
Yeah. Huh.
That's wrestling.
Only Neil does that.
Only I do that. I take
Marlon Brando.
So anyone that pays me, I'll take a dive. All right. So let's go back to Dichi. When we talk about specifically the event, tell us about the charity event. So everything that happened and some of the experience of the last week. Yeah.
So the charity event was on Saturday, and what it was is they're doing Silver Gloves boxing. It was a tournament that if you won that tournament, you would advance to the regional tournament, and then you would keep on advancing until you're at the national scale. So they were hosting that event at the gym that we were doing the charity event with. They were USA Boxing Gym, Lugo's Boxing. And we went there on Friday, the day before, and we didn't even know, but there was an NBC reporter that came. I did a quick interview with him, and we were kind of just going through on Friday what we were going to do and just the run through of the event. And on Saturday for the actual event, we had a guy from NPR come down, and I did a quick interview with him. We also interviewed Lugo, who was the owner of the gym, and then also a guy from Getty Images came and took pictures of everything. And it was great. It was so much unexpected stuff ended up happening, and the people there were just such good people. I'd never been to a real like gritty boxing gym, because it was a very like gritty, hardworking, like blue collar gym, if that makes sense. And I had never been in that environment. And after going to that environment, everyone was so welcoming. Everyone was so nice. And it really, like, that's why I said, like, after doing that first event, it like really hit like a special place in my heart. Listen, I want to do this. I want to keep on doing this.
So you're getting a lot of recognition for donating all that money to keep these boxing clubs open.
Definitely.
That were closed from COVID.
Yeah.
Are they permanently closed, or are they just temporarily closed? Those 300.
There's 300 gyms that were permanently closed.
Oh my gosh.
And you can only imagine the effect that would have on the community. Because when I went to the gym in Atlanta, there was probably 40, 50, 60 boxers that showed up just to that event. Not everyone was fighting, but that's 40 or 50 boxers that showed up to that gym to watch the event or partake in the event.
Wow.
Maybe you can do a charity event to get those 300 clubs back open.
Yeah, for sure. That would be most likely in the future, because we still have the 1,700 gyms. But it's really important. Like the change that it can have if if um if done properly, it's the change can be huge.
Yeah, absolutely. You getting all the PR that you feel that you need, or is never enough?
Never enough for PR. I mean, you could have tons and tons of PR, but it's never enough until every
Yeah.
person on earth hears it. I mean,
Exactly. And then, so you also did a song for this. So you put your music into this whole process as well. So tell us a little about that, how you connected music to the boxing. Mhm.
yeah, so 2 years ago, I'd say I read a book called The Book of Five Rings by a guy named Miyamoto Musashi. And that guy was a Japanese samurai slash shogun. And then the whole book was about, it was a martial arts text, but it shows hard work. The main idea of the book is sticking to your craft and keeping the grind. That's the main idea of the book. That's what I took from it. Um, so I read that book and I applied it to music years later, as in the song Five Rings. And the song is about like hard work, dedication that it takes for music. When I did that music video, when we were thinking of what we were going to do for the music video, we decided to shoot it boxing because at the time I had just started boxing and it was something I was very dedicated to and very passionate about. So we decided to shoot the video at the gym that I worked out at. And that one thing led to another and opportunities started to show. And then we decided to work with USA Boxing because I didn't know how tough it was until we talked to USA Boxing and did this whole we started doing this charity events, like these charity events. And that it helped. Like it definitely went from one thing to another. It started from a book, then the song, then the boxing, and now USA Boxing.
Gotcha. So that's a great story. And the song, tell us about the song.
Yeah,
Yeah, so the song
what genre is it?
it's weird. Like I call my music urban pop because it doesn't fit to an exact genre. I'd call it more hip hop slash melodic rap because there's a lot of different aspects in the music that I make. That's why I just call my music urban pop, just because I grew up in an urban environment and I try to make popular music. But for Five Rings, I'd say it's more melodic hip hop, a bit of R&B, a bit of rap.
Okay.
Wow, you might just have a new genre in your name.
Yeah, y'all created all from that. And so that's the thing. You're connecting all those things, your music and everything. What has been the feedback so far from the help you've had? So especially, I guess, the media feedback. What about the people you're helping? What have you been hearing on
It's been
that?
extremely positive. When I was in Atlanta, one of the girls that worked at the gym, she was one of the she used to work at a gym down the street and then she moved to this gym. She was talking about how she feels like the gym was such like a family environment. And then she was an ex-veteran. She used to be a drug addict, and then boxing and working out really saved her in a way. And it was
Oh,
like I had like a short talk with her, and it was just that one short talk was amazing because it really showed how it showed that what I'm doing is really helping. And to have her come up to me and say, listen, I was an ex-vet, I'm an ex-drug, I've done it all. And really everything that you're doing for us right now really means the world to me. And that really was amazing for her to come up to me and say that.
wow, and you have a counseling and a mentoring gift as well. Good for you.
That's great. For his age, Dave, he's
Changing the world
but
one
isn't he
person
changing
at a
it?
time.
Wish we were, what were we doing, Dave, at 18? We weren't changing the world. We were busy. I was busy going to college. And what were you doing at 18, Dave?
I was going to college, got married at 21, had a kid at 25,
Oh gosh,
and
yeah.
the
So you're
rest
a
is
little
history.
lower. I had a kid at let me see here. I got married at 25, a kid at 29. Now I have six, but yeah. So there goes I caught up from that end, Dave. But wow,
Any girlfriends,
yeah,
Gigi?
yeah.
Not
Dichi?
in the
Sorry,
current
sorry.
moment. I feel like I feel it would be tough for me to
Distracting.
have a girlfriend and be able to spend time with her. I didn't want to start dating someone
Yeah.
and then be like, oh, I have work. We can't hang out today. Because a lot of stuff it's day by day. I pretty much live day by day. Every day changes.
You're always running the
Yeah,
next thing.
I'm sure you get many offers though, right?
We got some offers here and there.
No, but see, the thing he's smart as on the road. So even though COVID, now you're back traveling some too with your music. Are you doing some traveling, a lot of traveling?
No, we're doing traveling mainly for the USA Boxing right now.
Oh, so you're going to be going from one place to the next place to the next place. So explain where you're going to be going in the next couple of weeks. Yeah.
Yeah, so we just went to Atlanta and we got back last Sunday, and then in the next couple of weeks we're organizing a tour around Florida right now. So we're going to be visiting. I mean, now I'm in Miami, so we're going to be visiting a lot of the USA Boxing gyms in Miami. Then we're going to go to Tampa, Orlando, Jacksonville, a lot of the major cities, and doing similar charity events that we did in Atlanta.
That's just great.
There's anybody out there doing what you're doing. You're like one of a kind.
Thank you. Yeah, I try my best.
So let's get the spotlight on your music. Now, music was the first thing. This has come out of nowhere, right? So now you're like, what is the brand? Define DChi's brand now. What is it? So you know what I mean? Because now you've added this other charitable component that when I was first introduced to you by your publicist, it was just the music. Now it's much more. What do you say? What do you think your brand is? Because Dave and I talk branding all the time. Dave, we've really not mentioned as it has been on how many TV shows, local TV shows?
Just did my 50th 2 days ago, 50
He's done
TV
50
shows.
local TV shows. I have had 7,000 plus interviews on my network, and I have a 5 million listener viewers per week on my network. I've interviewed major celebrities. So we all know how we're defining our brand. Clubhouse is another part of my brand now, being on social audio all the time, killing it, and speaking in front of hundreds of people all the time on that. You define your brand now, because first you were just thinking the music. Now you've added that charitable component. Tell me.
No, I think my brand is just constantly evolving. I feel like we can be, right now, it started as music. My brand mainly, at first, it was just music. Now it's music and boxing and charity. Then in the future, one of my long-term goals is to do clothing. So then we could add that aspect later in the future. So I think it's mainly just being able to, it's just constantly evolving and always having a positive impact. I think it's one thing to only do music, but what's the point of success if you can't help other people become successful as well? Because you could have everything in the world, but what are you doing for other people?
Yeah, you're an entrepreneur also.
Oh yeah, in the end, it's like we're all a community. Whether it's like, no matter what it is, we all live on earth together. We're all a community. So if I'm successful, what can I do to help someone else? So mainly, I think the best way to describe my brand would just be positivity, like having a positive impact.
See, I love that. I love that about you and your energy at 18. Like I said, at 18, I'm trying to remember, I was just focused on playing college basketball at McDaniel College, graduated undergrad. I was graduated high school in 1991. I think I was 18 years old, went on to play at Western Maryland, then went up to go transfer schools and became a professional wrestler, hit the pro wrestling circuit. So a lot of ways I've learned in branding through just trial and error. It seems like you've studied this. You're learning this firsthand, and then smart. I like the idea of you not having a girlfriend, but you'll find somebody who will be willing to travel with you. You'll find somebody who's going to be that one that believes in you and understands this is what your life is. And I think a lot of people, when we choose not to do what we truly love, it comes back to haunt us later on in life. And so keep it going. I'm so impressed by you. And Dave, so I just kind of wanted to jump onto that point of view. But for your fans out there, like for the music, so you're doing all the different stuff. Are you going to be performing as well when you do these events? Are you performing, or you have other plans for performing as well as a musician?
So at the events, it really depends, but at the events, most likely I won't be performing. It'd mainly just be a charity event. We'd be there just to oversee and watch and be involved and donate. So performances we'll see in the future. Right now, I have an audience, but my audience isn't big enough to do big performances, and we'll really see in the future. It's really dependent. Also, especially now with COVID, Delta, it really.
Why don't you do a music video that you've already have? Just show that. That would be a great addition to your charity event. And
definitely. No, we just finished up another music video. We did a reshoot yesterday, actually.
That's kind of cool.
have
So
to
what do
figure
you
out.
think of you as a producer? Are you behind the scenes in the video, or you have the expert looking at it, or you're still looking at it? How do you define that music video? Think about the days of, MTV, Yo MTV Raps, and how music versus was the VJ and MTV. If you're a history as a musician, and now seeing where videos are shooting now, and they're all YouTube, or or specifically other platforms to check out videos on Facebook and things like that. Where do you see when you shoot a music video? How much is your creativity involved versus who you've hired to help shoot it?
Yeah, so it's a joint effort between me and Brian Barrel. Brian Barrel's the my director, but we kind of both direct the video. Like he gives his input, I give my input, and we kind of work together to find an agreement and things that can work, things that can't work. And I kind of co-directed, I guess. All my videos I co-direct because Brian Barrel, he gives me an idea, I build off of that idea, or I give him an idea, he builds off of that idea. So it's really a joint effort in directing.
Yeah.
And I'm really I'm happy to be able to work with a great director such as Brian.
Awesome.
We've shot 8 videos now, I think.
That's awesome. And that's fun. I love that component. I want to do more of my business. I've created and produced 2 video commercials, one for a photographic memory business and also for a former company I was with, Lensec. So I have been in that behind the scenes. I produced TV shows before. It's fun in that process because you see the creativity and development of where it goes. I love brands, but I also like to put together things, looking at how websites are built. I can't build a website, but I sure as heck can come up with ideas how to design it. It's so important, the creatives. We're all creatives on this program right now. Dave is a true creative. And if you talked about what we talked about on our show a couple of weeks ago, he talked about how he's a celebrity entrepreneur and how you too are a celebrity, but also a celebrity entrepreneur yourself. How many 18-year-olds are out there in music that are creating other things, want to have a clothing line, all those different things? People would dream for that. So Dave, you're going to go to your caregiver question because I'm going to close it out with that. But that's why we call him Caregiver Dave Nassaney. Go ahead, Dave, and tell us why.
Yeah, well, it's a strange question for someone as young as you, but my wife had a stroke 21 years ago. She reinvented herself, went through the grief process, decided if she's alive, there must be a reason God has her here. And so I've been ministering to people who take care of sick people and people with disease, people who are dying, and grandparents, parents, people who are old, or people who have cancer, etc. And 30% of these people who care for people actually die before their loved ones do, because they are so internalized in what they do that they just give and give and give, and there's nothing left to give. And they need to learn to put their own oxygen mask on first. So my question to you, I know you probably haven't thought about it, but maybe you've seen other caregivers, maybe in your family, maybe your grandparents, maybe your parents. What kind of experience or exposure have you had to caregiving?
No, yeah, so my grandfather and grandmother right now are like their health has deteriorated over the past couple of years. Like yesterday or the day before, my grandfather was diagnosed with cancer.
Oh, so sorry.
That was like tough. So they live in Japan, my grandparents. So for caregiving, every year I'd go to Japan. Like for the past decade, probably my grandparents have been getting like worse and worse and worse in terms of their health. And then for the past decade, every summer I'd go to Japan for a couple months and I'd live with them. I'd take care of them.
Good for you.
When I don't know, I feel like my cousins weren't there as much as I was for my grandparents. And every summer I'd go to take care of my grandparents, whether that's go get groceries for them, live with them, if they need anything, cook for them, anything. And then so then a couple of days ago, my grandfather was diagnosed with cancer, which is like because he has like a tumor in his esophagus.
Yeah. How old is he?
He's 88 now. So he's on his way out, and it's tough to deal with because right now it's tough to get into Japan. So I can't if I could, I'd fly tomorrow.
Yeah. Who cares for him when you're not around?
My grandma was taking care of him, but my grandma.
How's she doing?
She had open heart surgery.
Oh my gosh. Caregiver needs a caregiver, right?
Yeah. So then my grandfather now, because he was just diagnosed with cancer, he's in the hospital right now. So my grandma's living alone. Oh, no. And then she had open heart surgery a couple months ago. So it's even tough for her to live by herself. So right now there's no one there's no one to take care of her.
Oh my
You're
God.
not able to go into the country, right? Because of COVID, correct?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
And the government doesn't have any programs to bring help in.
There's programs that she uses, like she has people bring food to her house so she doesn't have to go grocery shopping
Yeah.
and stuff like that. But it's still a tough situation, I think, for
Yeah.
her, despite even with all the government care. It's just a tough
Yeah.
situation.
And I'm sure it weighs on your heart. So add caregiver to your resume because that's what you are.
Yeah, isn't it amazing? See, Dave, you never know. See, you never know our guests. So Dichi, where can we find info? Where's the best place we can go and find out about the charity stuff, but also your music?
Yeah, so on dicimusic.com, DICImusic.com, that it'll show you all my social medias, whether that's YouTube, Instagram, everything. And then also on there, you'll find the link for Bandcamp, which is the link for the charity where you can buy 5 rings and all the proceeds go to USA Boxing. And you can also find all the articles, everything on dicimusic.com, DICImusic.com.
Again, I'm
Great.
impressed by this guy, Dave.
Yeah, me too.
He's definitely is going to be an up and comer. Talking to him about all branding and conversations, we could have a blast just talking about how to create a brand, develop a brand, understand a brand. And he's learning and he's educating himself. And I don't know, I was educating myself in college at 18. So there you go. Great job, man. Keep it up. And it's you're living the life. You keep it going, and appreciate you coming on Neil Haley Show. So thanks again.
Love you.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Neil Haley Show's Caregiver Dave Celebrity segment. So welcome to the program, Caregiver Dave and Sandy. Dave, what's going on? How are you, man?
Hey, I'm great. How you doing? It's been a great summer.
When it's professional wrestling, I get excited. Former pro wrestler myself, wrestled down south, Jerry the King Lawler. We talked about stories about The Rock, all the different things. When I was back in the day, retired at 99 in Bremen, Germany, wrestling for Catch. And our guest today is Shane Taylor from Ring of Honor. Shane, thanks for stopping by. How are you, man?
I'm good, but if you're gonna introduce me, it's got to be a little better than that, friend.
Right.
You're talking to the CEO of Shane Taylor Promotions, the former Ring of Honor World TV Champion, the current reigning and defending Ring of Honor World 6-man Tag Team Champion, the baddest of all time, Shane Taylor.
Okay, but maybe we have to get in the ring at some time, Shane, because I can make it on that.
Listen,
hey, I'm 6 foot 10.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know if you're built for that anymore. You know what I mean?
No.
Long time out the game, brother. Long time out the game.
About the game, it's never give up, man. You know that in this business for sure. Let's just break down how you broke down and all that stuff, Shane, because again, I was preparing for someone else till last night. If you know some of the major celebrities, I again challenged 2-time heavyweight boxers to the wrestling ring, everything. So you'll have to talk to some of our cohorts. But where did you start out in wrestling, and how did you always want to be a pro wrestler?
The dream for a while was football, but I've always loved wrestling. I just didn't know, like, especially back then, how to even start to begin a career as a professional wrestler. So football, in my mind, was the more attainable goal. And so throughout my childhood, as I looked and saw and got a little older, once I got to college, I met and was introduced to independent wrestling. Okay. And I was like, oh, there's a way to do this, right? And so once I caught wind of that, this is around 2006 or so. Once I caught wind of that, I started going to shows. My very first independent show was the International Wrestling Cartel in Pittsburgh. Okay. And you had guys, everybody there.
Was Norm Connors running it then? Or is that after?
Yes, it was. Yes.
Norm and I broke in.
This was
Steel City, and I was wrestled in Steel City a bunch of years for
yes, this was the Norm era. And you had, all the guys there. Your Justin Idols, your Super Hentais, your Eric Ecstasies, your Sterling James Keenan's, better known as Corey Graves now, and every heavy hitter who was anybody came through there, from AJ to Punk to Danielson to everybody, right?
Right.
And so while I was there and watching, there were these two guys by the name of the Cleveland Mafia, Ray Rowe and J Rock. And being from Cleveland myself and knowing Ray from our high school days, I was like, hey man, show me how, show me whatever I have to do to get involved in this. And then 2007 started training with him and J-Rock, and the rest is sort of history.
All right, Dave, you can ask any pro wrestling question to Shane, and I'll keep going into the story.
Shane, how you doing?
What's going on, brother?
So I'm not as knowledgeable about boxing
Or
or
wrestling.
wrestling
Or anything.
or all that stuff, even
good.
football, as my buddy here is. But what I do know about wrestling is that there was different eras of wrestling, like in the 50s, the 60s, 70s, etc. And some of the things I hear as a non-wrestler is that, wrestling is fake, wrestling is scripted, but those are good things that it's scripted, isn't it? Otherwise, wrestling would be kind of boring. No, what's your take on all of that?
I think it all depends on who you're talking to and the context in which they're trying to use it in, right?
Mm-hmm.
If people are trying to be disrespectful, then I'm going to take offense to that, because what we do in that ring, risking our lives, spending time away from our families, is very real.
Mm-hmm.
And the slightest misstep can cause you or your opponent, permanent damage. And if we're really breaking it down, right, this is all an entertainment to me, and me personally. Wrestling is really the only sort of sport that has the balls to say, hey, this is a show, but you're still going to come and have a great time, and you're going to watch this, right?
Yeah.
Now, in my opinion, right, if there's any sort of betting on anything, football, wrestling, boxing, basketball, whatever, right, someone's controlling something, because nobody is in the business of losing money. Nobody is, right? So somewhere somebody is pulling the strings to something. It's all an entertainment. And for me, you could, whether it's movies or anything like that, you can go see your favorite action star, right? You can go see Jean-Claude Van Damme go blow up a whole city block, kill 100 bad guys, and leave that theater all pumped up because you just saw your hero win, right? Nobody is going, well, he didn't really blow up that city block, or, those stunt guys aren't. No one's doing that. You know what I'm saying? So just sit back, enjoy the show, have fun, and stop being so, negative about everything.
Great answer.
So Shane, going back and seeing Dave, this is going to be an interesting one. Dave's questions versus mine, and I like it because Shane, you'll never have an interview like that. But when you get interviewed by me, you'll never have an interview like I interview, because I'm all about listening and all these different things in the process. When you talked about those connects down there, talking about Pittsburgh as kind of where your starting grounds are, how did you kind of get in so that IWC gave you the opportunities? How did that happen? Like just through different experiences, showing up and then getting the opportunities? How did that go?
Yeah, I mean, just about, and this story is going to be repetitive. Just about every opportunity that I've had in my career has stemmed from Ray Rowe being somewhere and then telling people about me, and then me showing up, getting the chance to do that, and then showing people what I've got. So it starts right here at the International Wrestling Cartel. Ray was telling guys, for months, hey, Shane can go. Shane is good. People heard him, but, didn't really care. I had the chance to run the lights a few times, so I did that. Whatever it is that I could do to just get my face seen. But then once I got my opportunity to step into the ring, then I was able to showcase what I could do, people like that, and started getting more and more opportunities with them, and then with independents all across the Midwest, all across the East Coast, and then all around the country.
And see, that's the key thing. Is those opportunities come, you arise, you go for them. And that's, remember all the time, guys, when I got trained by Charlie Fulton, they gave me the opportunities. Lou Marconi helped me, Darren Stone, Ron Kovlich. I was all those different guys. But then I got the opportunity to go down south to work for Burt Prentice, based on, hey, I'm going to one summer opportunity, and then I end up with the Headbangers, Room of the Headbangers, and all that stuff. So it's just all opportunity. I think in your day, it's a lot different. I think that the indies have a lot more opportunity with more professional independence than when I was there. And that's the thing. We think about how quickly you can get an independent contract to like, or a developmental contracts, a little different thing in this business now than when we were.
Yeah, and a lot of that has to do with technology, and a lot of that has to do with the wrestlers themselves understanding that you can use social media as a tool to create your own brand, right? Kind of like with music, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Before, it used to be all about, well, I have to go to a major label if I want to make money. Now, people can be independent artists and stay there and make a hell of a living doing that. And so what that allows now is for a lot of that power and that control to be back into the hands of the wrestlers themselves, because you don't necessarily need to go to a major wrestling company to be a star and be marketable and make cash. You can do that on your own now. So for us, I enjoy being able to see wrestling flourish in every way, right? The more people that are making cash, no matter where it is, the better it is for everyone. The more people signed, great. The more people doing their things on the independents, great. I like to see everybody being able to control their own paths.
So Dave, what we're basically talking about is the way the break-in, you always talk about when we've talked to, country music stars, Grammy Award winners, Dave, all those people, they had their opportunity. They had their thing. They had the talent. It's just meeting people. So Dave, the same thing happens in wrestling. As we talked about, remember we talked to certain country music stars that say, hey, I just got that opportunity to sing here and then I made it, or this. And remember some of the stories, Dave, we've had in the last 3 years. That's the same thing in wrestling. So treat Shane not like, okay, the competitor. Think of Shane in the way of the story and something. I always talk about it. It's just that he's an artist. Like we're all creators in some sort of way. And we find our opportunities in creating, as I've found in podcasting and radio for 11 years, growing to X amount of millions of listeners and opportunities that have opened up by starting. And Dave, you did the same thing by starting, right? Speaking, where you spoke on stages and all that.
But, I wanted to talk about how someone who's not a fan of sports in general, I became a boxing fan when Muhammad Ali went in the ring, because he was entertaining, like you said. And believe it or not, I became a wrestling fan when Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant and Andy Kaufman, believe it or not.
Okay.
What did those guys do to wrestling?
When you have iconic figures like that, what they're able to do is transcend, because the wrestling world is still very niche, right? Even though it's our world, it's still very niche in totality of everything, right? So what they were able to do is reach audiences outside of our niche and bring those eyes in. And when you can relate to people on a different level than wrestling, right, you're able to then attract more folks to you because everybody can find their thing to watch, right? So if you have a family of 4, sometimes the dad just wants to see the fight. The mom wants to see, the kids happy, so she's just watching. But then the kids, they're seeing these larger than life figures, or they're seeing funny characters like your Kaufmans, and they're entertained as well. So it's something for everyone. And when you have the ability, especially with dynamic personalities like a Muhammad Ali, to be able to draw eyes from around the world into your sport, it's only going to be a credit to you and a credit to the sport that you're involved in or the activity.
Would you say your character in wrestling, what would you kind of define it? Again, and me in pro wrestling, Shane, and knowing just last night I was interviewing you, I like just having a conversation to get to learn about somebody. But what would you say if you kind of portray your character as you came with me as the gimmick at the beginning? And this is just a shoot interview, just having fun and all that stuff. And you could put all the different accolades you've had, and as I can put out in my radio career, what I've had in accolades of celebrities I've interviewed. Tell me specifically how you define your character as a wrestler.
I think it hasn't been, except for the last few years, once I really clicked into Shane Taylor Promotions, which it is an LLC, so it is really my company. You know what I mean? Like, in finding and being comfortable with who I am and not changing it because of any outside pressure, right? Or because of the fear of any sort of backlash that may come from it, right? I come from a very dangerous area. I've gone through a lot of things in life. I've seen a lot of things in life. And so my perspective about a lot of things is different when it comes to not only wrestling, but social issues and things like that. So incorporating all of the real things that I feel into what Shane Taylor is has really clicked the last 2-3 years or so. And what that is since we were just talking about boxing, I took 3 of my favorite boxers, found different personality traits of myself, and kind of made a mold around all of that, right? So one of my favorites is Floyd Mayweather. And so what I did was take his story with Bob Arum and Top Rank, and how he learned to invest in himself, own his own brand, and become his own boss and create Mayweather Promotions. I took that, his ability to talk people into a fight, to be able to maximize his ability to make revenue. I've taken the entertainment aspect of him, combined that with the in-ring tenacity and killer mentality of a guy like Mike Tyson, the way that my strikes hit, the way that I attack each opponent, all of that focus and all of that energy. I take that, and then like our good friend said there, I took the leadership aspect of Muhammad Ali, and that's who I want to be outside of the ring, right? Because for me, I feel as though Muhammad Ali's legend and his icon status came from what he did outside of the ring more than what he did inside. And so to be able to combine those 3 aspects into one person, that's what you get when you see Shane Taylor. That's what you get when you see Shane Taylor Promotions. And the spirit of all of that is embodied through all my guys, whether it be Rev Ron Hunt or Khan or Moses or O'Shea, Ed Edwards. Everybody has that mentality. And that's why our chemistry and our synergy as a group is one of the very best in all of pro wrestling.
And see, and you created that and developed that, and that's through really looking at what a brand is. And so I take this as a branding expert, and a digital marketing expert, and looking at brands and building brands and saying, hey, you did it. You figured it out. You looked at what's the best, put it together into your brand, and it became your brand. And see, that Dave, that's the important thing. Just like caregiver Dave Nasani, Dave has a brand. He is the caregiver's caregiver. He helps caregivers, but he's spoken on stages. He's been on 49 different local television shows speaking about caregiving, and he's a gas station owner, but he puts his brand out there. When people look up caregiver Dave, he's the one that comes up. Look up Shane Taylor Promotions, you come up. When you look up Neil Haley, even though there's other Neil Haleys, I'm the only one that come up on Google. Right. That is called building a brand that people have an awareness and say, I want to be part of that. Dave, isn't that true? We talked about that a couple weeks ago.
Absolutely. Yeah, and you're doing a good job of your brand, Shane.
Yeah.
We spoke about the past of wrestling and the different things they went through. What, in your opinion, is the future of wrestling? And if there's a difference, what would you like to see the future of wrestling do or go into that direction, if it's not already?
Right. I think we're taking a lot of positive steps, especially when you talk about the old days, especially speaking from the perspective of an African-American athlete in this sport. We've gone from eras where we couldn't change in the same locker rooms to being only typecast as certain characters, having only the ability to be so high on the card, except for maybe 1 or 2 people. There was always a lot of places that had quotas, so it was very hard to break through if they already had a Black talent. And now I feel as though we've hit a point where the culture is shifting, and everybody is seeing that not only can Black talent be more than what they've been allowed to be, but they can run the gamut of every single thing that our counterparts can be. From the men to the women to everybody in between, we can do and be everything. right? And so that's the positive movement that's going forward. And I feel very proud to be one of the voices of that movement, to have people look at me as one of those voices and as one of those leaders, to be able to bring balance to not only the rosters, but and the next step, as you mentioned, is to not only bring balance to the rosters, but to bring balance to management, bring balance to marketing, bring balance to ownership, bring balance to all of the behind the scenes work, because just having Black people on your show is not enough. Just having Black people as champions is not enough. You have to be able to take what's inside of them and have that connect to your audience. Black people in Atlanta are not the same as Black people from New York, right?
Yeah,
You're going to get different things. You're going to get different, different dialect style, you know what I mean? Just a whole different vibe. So learning and having the people backstage to help the people that perform on the stage bring that out is going to be so crucial. From marketing to being able to decide, what kind of t-shirts, what kind of, merchandise we're going to sell, all of these things. We still have a long way to go to get there, to get to that point, but I feel as though we're taking steps in the right direction.
And see, I think that's the key thing that you look at is that before wrestling was controlled by certain things, now it's changing. The independent wrestler is now becoming people come to see that wrestler. They don't come back to see the promotion anymore. They come to see who are wrestlers. And that's where you see the difference with what's happening with the other organizations. Again, the growth factor of AEW versus WWE, even though WWE has all the talent's not being utilized right in the writing. And ROH, and companies like ROH, Impact are writing storylines that are going to be better that people are seeing. And then they're coming to see those wrestlers, and then they're going to be becoming the high talent that maybe AEW will pick up at one point in time. And I think let's talk about your accolades, first of all. You talked about every time that this is not happening to you, right, Shane? Oh my gosh, I'm always the one that finally they're not thinking I'm going to be the guy when they find out I'm the guy. Now with you being in ROH, having the championships, all these different things, what do you say about these accolades and the people that were naysayers of you?
I'm still not done. It's still a fight every single day. And for me, having the TV title was fantastic. I'm only one of 3 African-American males to have ever won that title, and I'm very proud of that. I was proud of the run that I had with it. Right now, with the 6-man titles with Khan and Moses, we are the first all African-American team to win those. And I am proud as hell of my guys for being able to write their names in the history books and call themselves champions. And we're on one hell of a run right now. But I think for me personally and individually, until I'm holding the Ring of Honor World Championship, I can't say anything to the naysayers yet. There's only been one African-American male to have held that title in the 20-year history of the company, and that was Jay Lethal. I think a lot of the people, a lot of the fans, a lot of the boys in the back know I have the ability to carry that, to be that guy. There's been so many people who either didn't come to ROH or left ROH because they felt that there was only room for one at the top. I stayed because nothing ever changes if no one's there to fight for it, right? So I made that a goal and I made that a mission. And so until I have the company's top prize, until I have the Ring of Honor World Championship, then there's nothing I can say to the haters yet, except wait and see, because it's coming.
Okay. All right. So Dave's final question is the caregiving question. And it's an interesting thing. Again, talked about some of your family background a little bit today. Mm-hmm. It was great talk. We're talking wrestling, and it's funny, the people who we know versus not know. But Dave, go ahead with your caregiving question.
Yeah. I was going to ask you about life expectancy and the great icons. Usually their health has taken them out of the ring.
Right.
And I was wondering how far you were going to go. Where were you going to stop it, and not allow your health to take you out of the ring? And then that follow-up question is, have you ever thought about your loved ones, your family, your parents, your grandparents, and that they might need care one day, and you might be the guy to have to give them that care? Because I say, if you're not a caregiver right now, just wait. You're either going to become one or you're going to need one.
Right.
There's no escaping it. It's inevitable.
So 2 questions. First one is about like how long your career is going to be, and are you concerned about some of the early lives of certain wrestlers of the past?
My career is going to be as long as I want it to be. As far as the health goes, I've been very lucky, knock on wood, to avoid any crazy injuries. There's some nagging stuff, you know what I mean? But that's just 14 years of wrestling. You're going to have that. But as long as my health is good and I still feel like I can perform at a top level, then I'm going to keep doing this. The second that I feel either one of those is no longer the case, then I'll start to make my my retirement tour. But for now, it's smooth sailing for at least the next 5 years. You know what I mean? So that's that part. And as far as the caregiving and all of that stuff, I've had a lot of people in my life that were very close to me that got sick. And so I've witnessed a lot of that. And that's why I push myself so hard to be able to be in a position where anybody that's close to me, if they do get sick or they do need help, the only thing that they're going to have to worry about is getting better, not having to worry about the bills, not having to worry about anything else, because I'm going to be able to take care of that. So my family, the elders in that family are constantly on my mind, and are one of the reasons, as are my children, as to why I push myself so hard, and I make all the sacrifices that I do.
Great. And where's the best place we can connect with you and check you out? Where's the best place?
Twitter and Instagram at Shane216 Taylor. And if anybody is in the merch buying mood, head on over to whatamaneuver.com/Shane Taylor, and also check out the ROH Pro Shop. That is ROH. I think it's just the ROH shop. So ROHshop.com. Or check out ROHwrestling.com. And I appreciate all the love and support for the last 14 years. STP is continuing to grow, and that's all because of the people. So we just want to say thank you all.
Hey, well, thanks again. And what a great interview. Again, the connection of Norm Connors and different people we mentioned. We'll have to talk off air at one point, or maybe I'll make a comeback. You never know about these things, especially
I'm
never
here.
know. 6'10", 300 pounds. I'm 6'10", 300. So
bring it on, brother. Bring it on.
Yeah, because there's not as many giants in wrestling as there were when I was working. I wish that this time. It's crazy. It's wild, man. It's wild how it's changed. All right. Well, thanks again for stopping by. Appreciate it, Dave. CaregiverDave.com for him. And take care, guys. See ya.
Bye.
All right.